No role plays, no conference calls, no BS. Chris and Lorenzo share 4 decades of combined experience to help you become a more effective leader. This is Hacking Your Leadership.
Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And Lorenzo, on this episode, I want to talk about a LinkedIn post that I saw from Joseph Forline. He's a change management person, and something just popped up on my feed because someone else had made a comment on it, and I took a minute to dive into it, and it looks really cool. It's it has some elements of things that we've talked about in the past, but I think it summarizes it really nicely. It's a kind of an infograph, and we'll post a link to it in the podcast description, and it's called Your Personal Board of Directors. And I thought this was interesting because I've always heard, you should, as a person in general, who you surround yourself with makes you, right? Like makes you or breaks you. The people that I know who I can look back and say, wow, they had so much potential. What happened to them? The answer is in who they were surrounding themselves with, who were their close friends at the time, whether it be in grade school or high school, who were the people they hung out with at night and on the weekends. Those are the kind of people who help you to stay on the path that will help you be successful or that will kind of derail you from that path. And this kind of takes it to the next step and talks about the personal board of directors of any person in a leadership role or someone who wants to be in a leadership role. These are the kind of the 6 people who you should have. And I like this a lot. There is some overlap, for some people, depending on where you are in your career, you might have, one person that fills 2 of these roles or 3, but as you move up, they have very specific functions, and you should really try to make sure that there's someone in your life, whether it's your work life or your personal life, that kind of fits the bill for what these things are. And I think it will help you go farther in your career as a leader and just as an employee. So I want to go over them with you, but first of all, what are your thoughts on the high level of this?
Yeah, I like this idea a lot. We talk a lot about those that you surround yourself with, and where do you get, guidance, perspective, thoughts? Where do you get pushback? Where do you get inspiration from? Who are those people that are helping to kind of like, helping you navigate your career and decisions that you make and those types of things. So I always like these types of infographics because it makes you think, like I see these and I immediately think of specific names of people that are in my life. And I look at it more of like some of them, to your point, is overlap. There's some of them play multiple roles in my life. And then some of them play very specific roles in my life. And I think it's important that you have that and that you're considering these things. And I think sometimes we can get into the mode of finding success. And I've said this last week a few times, like success is the worst teacher. Because as you're having success, you can feel like, oh, well, I don't need that, or I don't have to have that in my life or my career. I'm doing well. I've got this going. I'm having success here. I don't need a career coach. And then you realize that, those how you're navigating the times in the success is actually just as important from a career standpoint as it is when you're maybe not having success. So I think these things are really helpful in making sure that people can, reflect on and maybe hold themselves to account so that they have these people in their lives and that they're getting this type of support and direction as you continue to grow as a leader.
Yeah, that's so true. The 6 people that Joseph Forline mentions should be on your personal board of directors are a mentor, a sponsor, a career coach, a peer, a friend, and a wellness coach. And, we'll go into each of them real quick and just kind of make sure that, we understand some of the differences. It's less about the specific separation and more about making sure that there are people who are doing certain things for you in your life, or that you have the right relationships, that you're surrounding yourself with these right people. And so I want to start with one that's kind of important to me, would be someone like a mentor. And Joseph says that mentors are individuals that are either inside or outside your organization, and they're typically above your level, whether they're in or outside. And what they do for you is they can navigate topics like finding internal opportunities. They can help you navigate through political waters, like who are the right people to make sure that you remain friends or on the good side of. And then they can act as a sounding board. So if you want to throw something out there, as opposed to an idea, as opposed to just doing it, that's a person who can kind of give you some honest feedback on whether or not you're barking up the right tree or the wrong tree. So I like this one a lot. I think that there are people in my life who have been that, and I never even I always thought of mentors as someone who is, it's a purely, business relationship. It's someone who's, you tell them what your goal is, they help you get to the next goal. You have regular meetings, and that's a very transactional way to look at it. And I'm not saying that's not important, but this part of it is important too. Someone who you can just kind of reach out to and throw things and bounce things off of, have conversations about, that would help kind of refine the decision-making process as you navigate through these different steps of your career.
Yeah, no, we've gone a lot about talking about mentors and the importance of them, and I think it's something that I'm really big on saying, like, you're gonna have those that are like kind of passive mentors that you'll talk to from time to time. They give you inspiration, they give you direction. You talk to them a little bit, but I think this really becomes a big deal when you tell people that you see them that way. Hey, like, I really see you as a mentor of mine. Like, I really appreciate the time that we get, what you share, the perspective that you gain. Is it okay if we do this with some more frequency? Is this okay if I reach out from time to time? And of course, most people are like, yeah, of course, like, absolutely. But I think it's important to put out there, because it also shifts a little bit of that responsibility to make sure that that person is in a space where, number one, they do have the time to mentor you, and number two, it's not just casual conversation. That there's some intention here around helping you work through something that you may be working through. So like, I love that we're starting there, and I think it's something that's critical. And I think that a lot of organizations have mentor types of strategies, and they want to build some of that within a company. And I think that there are varying degrees of which I think that's effective. I think sometimes it can be really helpful when somebody in the organization is having success or has had success in the role that you do, and they can help you work through some of those things. But I also think that outside mentor is the person that I think can be really helpful, and just not having the maybe the weight of feeling of responsibility of having to mentor you as an employee of an organization, and more somebody who's helping to mentor you as a person who's working through things that you might be working through.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I also think, you brought up career coach at the beginning, and I think this is a kind of a good space to kind of bring this up, because just out of habit, when I first read these things and I first saw just kind of the high level titles, I thought, okay, mentor and career coach. I was thinking there's a lot of overlap there. That might be the same person in a lot of people's lives. We did an episode very recently on Hacking Your Leadership where we talked about what it means to be a coach and how coaching is different than just leading or holding people accountable or getting the performance out of somebody. That looks different for a lot of people than what actual coaching is. And the way that this infographic kind of separates out career coach from a mentor, I think it is really in spirit of that conversation that we already had. It says a career coach actually has experience in the industry of recruiting or the hiring process, or someone that can help you with the ins and outs of that process, helping you find your next role, determining your career path, helping you update your resume, giving you networking tips, interview practice. These are actual coaching items here. This isn't just someone who's like, oh, they happen to be someone I trust and who can mentor me. Now they by default become my career coach. No, that is a very specific difference between someone who you would consider a career coach, someone who has the actual training and experience and job knowledge to help in a coaching capacity, versus someone who is just a mentor. And when I say just a mentor, I don't mean that the career coach is a higher level. I mean, they're different people if you can manage to have both of those people in your lives, and they serve very different functions. And so I like this a lot, because it's not just saying, oh, someone who's a career coach is a mentor or vice versa. You really need to have someone who is specifically for this thing and someone who is specifically for that thing, and they're not the same thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. And I immediately think of somebody being like, well, wait a minute, that means I need to have a friend who's a recruiter, right?
Right.
Like
No,
what does that
gosh,
look like? Yeah, but if that's not the case, right? What you need to have is somebody there that can help you understand it and think about your career decisions and your choices, and what does it look like? Are you getting the growth that you need and want in the current organization that you have? or are you looking for more? Or are you looking to maybe open up the opportunities that you have? These are important. I think sometimes I've actually felt into that space. Not that I have any recruiting experience as a official title, but I definitely have. I felt like I've gone into this mode with friends and family members where I'm just like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Like, have you considered what it would be like to maybe leave that company, or maybe have you thought about like what else is out there? Are you thinking about your opportunities and making sure that you're not just boxing yourself into just one very linear type of growth professionally? And so I think that it's important, and you should have somebody that is making sure that you're getting what you want to get out of your current career choice, and that you are aware of what that work looks like at other places, and make sure that you're aligned with being in a place that you want to be.
Yeah, the last one I want to talk about on this that's kind of in the business related part of it is a sponsor. And Joseph says that sponsors can advocate on your behalf for new job opportunities or special projects. They're typically senior leaders in your organization or very similar, in the same industry. They have high level of influence and decision-making authority. This is a person who is likely not someone you just hang out with on weekends, right? Like, this is a person who it's almost solely a business relationship, but it's a relationship that is based on or rooted in a history of good, solid, high-performing work. And so if you have a person in your life or multiple people with whom you worked alongside doing something, and then maybe as you went different paths, one person moved up in another organization and you still have a relationship with them, that person is kind of bought into you in terms of your work ethic, or that they can put their name behind you and you're not going to burn them. That's really the most important part here. Is if a person can bring up your name and put their name behind it, they know that no one's ever going to come back to them and say, what was it with you suggesting that person? That was a train wreck, right? Like that can't happen. And so for a person to say that they want to rise to the level of being a sponsor for somebody else, that implies a long history of interactions in the business sense, where they not only see your successes, but they see how you rebound from failures, or how you salvage things that are failures. Because again, this isn't just you're always successful and you always do the right thing. This is when the wrong thing happens, how did you get past it? How did you move on while maintaining the relationships that are important to you? And so if you can get to the level where you have someone who is willing to put their name behind you like that, that implies that you have done something or several things right in terms of maintaining those relationships. That's not one to kind of to put by the wayside. It's a very important one to have if you can have it. But I think a lot of people, it's not one that you can try to have. It's one that kind of just develops over time. It's less likely you'll have that in the very first parts of your career. It's more likely to happen after a few years of work where you have started to develop those relationships.
Yeah, I was just having a conversation the other day with somebody about professional relationships, and I was using the term advocate, but it would be swapped out the same way as a sponsor, because a sponsor can advocate,
Oh, yeah.
on your behalf. But I was saying exactly the same thing. I was like, there's an element of professional relationships where you want to work well with people, and you want to make sure that that the relationship is positive, that you can get work done. But you need to have more intent with building advocacy or getting sponsors, which means that the relationship over time has to build in such a way that they know they can count on you and you can count on them. They know that when asked, when they ask for you to do things or to partner with them, that there's a positive outcome in that relationship, that you are open to their help and support, that you bring them along in the things that you do, because those individuals are really important when it comes to opportunities and career progression. You want people to be able to speak your name in rooms that you're not in a positive way, and with specificity, to say, no, hey, I've been working with Chris for a couple of years, and every time I connect with Chris on a project, he's always willing to work on it. He's helpful with it. He supports it. He gets back with me. So like, yeah, I could see him at the next role. Like, that's kind of what you want to happen. If you just work with people and it's just kind of like non-intentional, that type of sponsorship can take a lot longer if you're not really clear about those things. And you know what? Here's what's going to happen sometimes. You're going to bump heads. You're going to disagree. They're going to have a different priority than you. And when those things happen, you need to fix them quickly. And you need to make sure that you move on and move through them very, very quickly so that they can get back into a space of being an advocate and a sponsor for you.
Yeah, that's so true. The other thing too is that you have to understand that it has to be right for them also, meaning just because they can put their full faith and support behind you and they trust you because of that long history, it doesn't mean it's always the right time to bring your name up. So don't get into this space where you start thinking, oh, that person's not my sponsor. They were meeting with the CEO today and they didn't mention my name. Yeah, well, that means it probably wasn't appropriate. It probably wasn't appropriate to happen at that moment in time. And you have to rely on or trust that they would if it were. That if it is the right time, because it can't look like they're trying to do anything that is self-serving, or that that they were using their influence in order to get you to come up. It has to be the right opportunity and the right time, and then that your name happens to be in the back of their mind. That's really what it comes down to. For the second part of this, I really want to talk about the other kind of half of this, which is the people that you need to surround yourself with that are not kind of rooted in the business sense, but really they're rooted in the they can keep you on the straight and narrow when maybe you need to hear something that you don't want to hear. And we're talking about friends and peers. I think the higher you move up in an organization, the more important these people become. It might seem the opposite. It might seem like the higher you move up, the more you want to have a mentor or sponsor and a career coach. And I would say it's exactly the opposite. The higher you move up, the more likely you are to stray from whatever the truth is that the line level people in your organization are speaking. And if you can have a peer or a friend, someone who will look at you and say, what were you thinking when you made that decision? Or that will always be honest with you about the mistakes that you're making so that you are less likely to make them in the context of your career choices or your leadership choices. Those are really important people to have around. I know leaders who have been derailed where it's only looking back in hindsight where they see all the mistakes they made, but when they were making the decisions, they didn't think they were doing anything wrong. They thought they were doing exactly the right thing because through a combination of happenstance and sometimes they allowed it to happen. They just weren't surrounded by the right people anymore. They're surrounded by people who said, yeah, you're doing the right thing. Yay for you. And they started to believe it over time.
Yep, I completely agree. And with that, it brings us to this episode's 1 minute hack. But first, a few words from our sponsors.
All right, for this episode's 1 minute hack, here's what I want you to do. Look at this infographic and write down the 6 names of the people in the personal board of directors: the friend, the mentor, the sponsor, the career coach, the peer, and the wellness coach. And I want you to look at the descriptions of them and write down people in your life who may fit into these, kind of titles. It doesn't have to be perfect, but someone who you think, okay, this person is the most likely to fit. Don't cram it in if they don't fit, though. There might be people that don't exist in your life, and that's okay too. We'll get there. Write down the people that most fit. And then I want you to look at where it is lacking. Like, where are there people that don't fall into place in one of these 6 titles, or where you don't have people? And the very first thing you want to do to try to attract that is to do it yourself. You get back what you put out into the world. And so if you don't have someone who is you consider a mentor, the best thing you can do is to start putting that out in the world to other people. Try to be a mentor to others. Try to be a sponsor to others. Try to be a career coach to others if you have the skill set to do so. The best way to get people to want to do things for you is to see that you have the ability to do it for others, and you'd be amazed at what comes back and how your personal board of directors will start to fill up just by doing to others what you hope will come back.
Yeah, I think it's a great 1 minute hack. And again, it's just another time that you can kind of take inventory in how are you considering those around you that are helping you as you navigate your career and navigate life in general. And then how are you making sure that as a leader, you're also showing up that way for others? And I think that cycle is a really healthy one. That allows people to be able to show up as their best, but also have those, like having those that can help them navigate it, while also having those that help them hold themselves accountable to showing up as your best, and then being that for other people is also a great way to even better understand what do you need from those in your life that support you.
Yeah, that's so true. I also think this takes work, right? This isn't just happenstance. None of these things happen on their own without work and effort. Each of these things is a relationship. and relationships takes time. Sometimes it's a short amount of time. Sometimes things just kind of like they're serendipitous and they fall into place. Other times it takes time. It could take months or years to build these things, but the benefit is so worth it. If you can have people in your group that can help you and that you can help especially when times are tough. If there's a sudden layoff or a retraction in your organization where you don't have a job anymore and you need to be able to land somewhere softly, or if you're coming up on something that's really difficult, a decision to make or a potential promotion, being able to rely on people like this can really help you make sure that you're going in to any of these decisions or any of these things, not just with your eyes open, but with a confidence that says, I can get through this. We can't walk these paths alone. We have to walk them with people. And the person on the board of directors is really the group of people that will help you get through a lot of these kind of trials and tribulations in your leadership career.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll talk to you all next time.